Lashinsky from Montecristo Travels, where we answer your questions on international travel with a small dog. And this is Montecristo. Today I'm going to talk to you about probably your most important investment when it comes to travel with your dog, and that is your airline approved pet carrier. Now, before I get into which carrier we've settled on over the years, I do want to mention that if you're going to fly in cabin, your pet plus the carrier needs to be 20 pounds or less. So keep that in the back of your mind when you're looking at carriers. That means that if your pet is larger than mine, I mean, this little guy's 3.5, 4 pounds, so we have tons of wiggle room. But if your dog is on the slightly heavier side, then you know the lightness of the carrier itself is going to become extra important. Another note, I am not sponsored for this. This is just a product that we really like. So I needed to make sure that you knew that. So what are the dimensions? Basically, the dimensions you're looking for are, and I wrote them down to make sure I got them right. So you're looking at 19 inches by 13 inches by 9 inches. So those of you who are in centimeters, which is pretty much the rest of the world, that is 48 centimeters long by 33 centimeters wide and 22 centimeters high. And that is about an average. You do want to check with the airline before you actually fly. Their dimensions sometimes change depending on the aircraft, so you need to make sure that you're following those dimensions. But if you stick to these, that's pretty much what I would call the sort of the safe zone. So on with the carrier itself. The carrier is by a Canadian company called One for Pet. As a Canadian, obviously, I kind of like that it's a Canadian company. Again, feel free to go out and look and see what else is out there, but this is the carrier that we have settled on. It's been about 7 years of international travel now. We've had quite a few cross-Atlantic flights, and this carrier has time and time again proven to be exactly what we need. So one little caveat, this carrier is one that we use when we know we're going on big adventure trips, so sailing, hiking, that kind of thing. And the reason that becomes really important is, first of all, it's very lightweight. And it also, as you can see, collapses into a really great little package. And the reason this is important is that once we're on location, I no longer want this carrier to be in the way. If you're in a sailboat or backpacking, space is at a premium, and you do not want a carrier that's going to be difficult to collapse or something that's going to get in the way. And when we arrive on location, the great thing about this particular carrier is that it goes into its little pouch. It goes at the bottom of the bag, at the bottom of a carry-on, at the back of the sailboat, whatever, and we don't have to worry about it anymore. So having a collapsible carrier is, for us, something that's really important. The other thing is that it is idiot-proof to put together. And I do say that because I'm not good at these things. I mean, if it's anything more complicated than this, I am going to get all frustrated and flustered, and if it has bits that you have to connect and clicks and things, and I can't do it. I'm just not gifted that way. This thing's super simple. It's basically zippers. So you zip it up. He's getting excited. He's gonna want to go in a minute. Okay, so you zip it up on one side, you zip it up on the other side, and you're done. Like that's it. That's as hard as this gets. So woo, for me. So there you go. So this is what the carrier looks like when it's zipped up and ready to go. Something that's really important to understand when you're going to be using a carrier for flying is that the carrier has to be able to stand on its own. I see a lot of really great little city bags that could technically work as a carrier for a flight. The problem is that as soon as you put them down, they kind of collapse on themselves. So they're great when you're carrying the dog, but they don't stand on their own. And because the dog is going to probably be in this carrier under the seat in front of you, and you're not going to normally be able to take your pet out of the carrier during the flight, you really need this to really be basically a small doghouse, really. So I'm going to demonstrate the importance of this top flap. So here you go. You want to go in, don't you? Okay, so we're going to put him in. Here we go. Boop, 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 boop. And there he goes. Okay, so things to look for. For me, I do not understand why more carriers don't have the zipper on the top, because this zipper on the top is probably the area that I access the most on a flight. He's under the seat in front of me, if I need to pull him out and check on him, you know, having an aerial view is the most important. If we're going through security, I find grabbing him from the top considerably easier than some of the other carriers we've tried where you're trying to drag him out from one of the other sides. So for me, he can see me, I can see him. This here on top is probably the #1 thing you should be looking for. The second thing, another question mark I have for some of the other manufacturers, this carrier has an opening on each side. So they're basically mesh openings. You unzip them, right? And look, there he is, right? And he can see through all of them. It also has exactly the same thing on the other side. A lot of airline approved carriers are completely blocked off on one side. Now, some dogs really like the sort of cave effect. Monty does not. Montecristo really wants to be able to see where he's going. So I love that there's a mesh on this side as well and on the other side. So he's got full ventilation, he can see where he's going, he can make eye contact with me whenever he wants to, and so this works really, really well. The other thing I love about this carrier is that it expands. So when we're walking around, I don't want him to be jostled about, and he's a little guy. And a lot of the carriers are great, but they're that little bit, well, too big. So this one's great because when we're walking around, it really corrals him and keeps him nice and snug. But once we're on the plane and he's settled, I can expand to give him a little bit more stretch so he can really stretch out, put his feet out, and have a good time. And the way I do that, and you see what I was talking about earlier, zippers, right, is with this second zipper right here. And you can see it has sort of an accordion effect. Hope you can see that. Right? And it does the same thing on the other side. And so all of a sudden, this sort of little teepee kind of shape becomes a perfect rectangle. And so he has a lot more room to sort of get up, turn around, scoot about in there. So he really likes, I like that feature, and he really likes that feature. So there's that. This does come with a shoulder strap. I'm not going to click it in, but it has basically, you click it in, it has a nice thick shoulder pad on it. Do look for that. My little guy's only 3.5, 4 pounds, and I find walking through the airport to be, well, after an hour or two, believe it or not, you start to feel the pressure. So you want that foam. You want that nice thick shoulder pad going on there. And I love that this can be removed, because when I'm not carrying him and I'm going through security or putting him under the seat in front of me or in the airplane and maneuvering in small spaces, which, you know, when you're traveling happens a lot, I really prefer to be able to use just the handle and to not have this strap falling around and getting in the way. So I can just remove that, put in the little side pocket that's over here on this side, where I also keep some treats, some poop bags, you know, that kind of thing. And I love that this comes off. It is really, really handy. So there's that too. The other thing you want to look for is something that is really, really solid. There are some beautiful carriers out there, but honestly, they're not made of tough enough stuff, if I can express myself that way. This material, I don't know what this is actually made of, but this is really solid. I have looked, I'm that crazy person who'll get on the floor in the airplane to see what's going on underneath the seats in the planes. Wow, they're not covered down there, so it's bolts, it's pieces of metal, and all that. So every time you're scooting this carrier underneath the seat, it's going to get, you know, you're gonna hear that. So if you have this super pretty dainty fabric that's covering it, or you have rhinestones or whatever, don't be surprised if after a few flights that's all gone and ripped to shreds. We've had this carrier and have used it for almost 6 years now, and it still looks brand new because, and another point, it's really easy to wash. Basically a damp cloth, and you know, everything comes off of it. So these are sort of the exterior parts that are important, is the size, the fabric, you know, the fact that it expands and it collapses, the fact that the strap is got a nice big thick shoulder foam strap but also comes off, which makes it really convenient. It also has this great little feature at the back here, right, where if he's not in the carrier and I just want to hook this up onto the wheelie of my suitcase, I can just boop, pop that in there and it stays nice on the suitcase, and I can walk him and I don't have to carry the bag anymore, which is a big bonus. So that kind of covers the exterior. Now I do want to go a little bit into what to look for on the inside. So Montecristo's in there now. I don't think he's asleep yet. Are you sleeping yet? No, not yet. But he's kind of comfy in there, as you can see. So here's a little guy. He's super comfy. He spends enough time in here to feel right at home. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about is what he's sitting on. Now, this particular one is just absolutely superb. The one for Pat has this really thick sort of, I don't want to call it foam because it's not really foam. It's sort of it's not quite yoga mat foam, but it's a hard foam. And it's wrapped with this really great faux fur. And because the carrier expands, they've also made the inside expandable. So it has a little Velcro bit here, right? I don't know if you can see that, but it has a Velcro bit right here, right? And so when you've expanded it, you can rip it open and expand the nice faux fur section. It also comes off and is machine washable. One of the things I've noticed with some of the other carriers out there is that I've taken this inside out, I've taken the little faux fur wrap, or it's a horrible plastic wrap that he's going to slide all over on, so don't get those. And you open it and you take what's out and it's a piece of cardboard. And personally, if I'm going to invest a good amount of money in a carrier, I kind of get a little bit offended if when I take this piece off, it's cardboard. The other thing about cardboard too is accidents do happen. So Montecristo, when he was still a much younger puppy, didn't quite hold it in long enough for us to get into the bathroom. And he ended up wetting himself in his carrier. It was a bit of a mess. But if it had been a cardboard insert, that would have been an extra yucky mess. So luckily with this kind of thing, you just take it off, put it in a plastic bag till you get to wherever you're going, you can clean it. And then this foam thing that they have on the inside, that's something that you can rinse and just put a towel around and you're good to go for the rest of the trip. So you want to make sure that you're not dealing with anything that's cardboard or anything that's going to be damaged if wet. So I don't want to disturb him too much because he seems to have settled. So I'll just talk to it while he's having a nap. And as you can see, he's really, really comfortable in this. And I think it's partially because he's spent so much time in it, but also because this carrier is so incredibly well made. So the other thing that I like about this is that it is relatively gender neutral in the sense that it doesn't matter if I'm carrying it, it doesn't matter if my partner Stefan is carrying it, guy, girl, whatever, it doesn't really matter. I mean, certainly if you want something that's cuter and pink, or if you want something that's more manly and I don't know, camo or something like that, you know, by all means go out there and look for this. This particular carrier comes in this beige olive green combination, but also comes in a really nice, I'm kind of tempted to switch to it, but I'm not going to spend money just to get a new color carrier, but it comes in a really nice blue combination, which I kind of like because it would go with our logo a little bit more. But anyway, so they're very gender neutral. I think what I really love about this carrier is that it's small enough for a truly small dog, but it expands if you have a slightly larger dog. It's sort of taken everything into consideration. So this is the carrier we use and have used for the last 6 years. I have occasionally tried something else only to come back to this one. So if you're going on a really great trip and you know you're going to need something that's collapsible, that you can tuck away, that you can take a beating, that's going to do everything that you need to do, then I highly recommend this particular carrier. If you have any other questions, by all means, do not hesitate to leave me a question in the comment and I'll be happy to answer them. And until next time, happy travels.